people, right now around the world, you're witnessing the Mandela effect of the human race. Oh my fucking God. We're literally watching the Mandela effect of the whole human race right now, and who is standing on this earth and who is standing on another frequency specific version that is changing in front of our eyes. It's so
Hmm.
observable. It's so fascinating. Do some research, get into the videos on China, get into any videos about population and empty cities and emptying cities, and get some info there, man, because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
honestly, you don't want to miss this one. Like, it's going to answer Tartaria for us. This is going to answer the
We're
questions
running
that we've
through it
had.
again. But this is it, right? We've seen it in the past. We've studied it. Empty cities. What the hell's going on? Where did all the people go? And it looks like we're going through it again.
Recently, people from across China have been posting videos online saying that cities they live in are no longer the same. Once bustling streets are now deserted. Formerly crowded commercial areas are disappearing, and the busiest places like malls, subways, train stations, and buses are nearly empty.
现在中国真的还有14亿人口吗？
Does China really still have 1.4 billion people? When it was 1.2 billion, it always felt so lively, whether it was the streets, the malls, or even the villages. But now, with 1.4 billion people, the streets are empty, and the villages are left with just a few elderly people. The number of students in schools has dropped by several times. Where did all these people go? What would you feel if you woke up one day and everyone, your city, the people around you, had disappeared? What would you do?
Oh, good morning, afternoon, and evening, Tartaria, Australia. Hi, Mr. Autodidactic. We're back here for
Yes, we are back
kick-ass
to kick ass.
concept.
Yes, we've come to chew gum and kick ass, and we're all out.
Oh, so like straight into it because it's a big topic, and Campbell and I had a really good night the other night. Just we're just relaxing, having some wine, and just took. Well, you guys all saw the last podcast where we were looking at China, so that's where we're going to kick off today because this topic of China has fascinated us. I mean, because I was actually there 2 years ago and saw it with my own eyes and came back and was like, China's empty. What's going on? And now, as we showed in the last podcast, there are all these Chinese people in China walking around making videos saying, where's all the people?
Many people are starting to question if China still has 1.4 billion people as officially claimed. The economy is struggling, businesses are quiet, and streets are less crowded, and even rural areas are getting emptier. This raises the question, where did China's population go? It's strange, the holiday is over, but where have all the people in Beijing gone? I don't know if you've noticed, but the streets in Beijing are empty. The malls are empty. The streets are empty. Everywhere is empty. Can anyone analyze this? Where did all the people go? Did they go back to the countryside to retire, or have they moved to other places for opportunities? It feels like there are fewer and fewer people in Beijing, but I don't know where they went. Can anyone help me figure this out? The World Trade Center in Beijing is all shut up, and there's no one around. What happened? It used to be so vibrant.
现在的人都去哪了？
Where have all the people gone? The streets in Shanghai are so empty. Look, the streets are deserted. Where did everyone go? Honestly, when I came to Shanghai 10 years ago, we had to wait to cross the street. Now it's empty. Just look at Pudong Airport 10 years ago. The number of people was so much higher than now. Where did all the people go? I really don't understand. Even in our town, there are so few people. I didn't expect Shanghai to be so empty. Look at the stores. They're all struggling. There's always space. No more waiting in line. In fact, population loss is as severe everywhere in our country now.
我现正在大上海陆家嘴。
I'm at the World Financial Center in Lujiazui, and the entire road is empty at midway. Where are the office workers? Where are the beautiful women? This area is home to the headquarters of major banks and security firms, so there should be a lot of office workers. Where did they all go? I walked around and couldn't even find a restaurant or food court. It's so hard to find a place to eat. Is this really Shanghai? The city that generates over 50 trillion yuan in GDP every year? It's really strange. Where are all the people? There are even fewer people here than in my hometown. Where did everyone go?
I mean, China, of all places, like India, they're used to the hustle and bustle. They're used to big crowds. They're used to being shoulder to shoulder and having to line up in queues for ages to get things. They're used to having to push their way through the markets and haggle their way through the thick, dense streets. So it's finally become super obvious to the population themselves. So that's where we're going to kick off the conversation today, Campbell, in as much as this seems to be happening in real time in front of our eyes. I mean, that's the first thing we should start to talk about. It's happening in real time.
Yeah,
What say
man.
you, Mr. Purvis? What
It
say you?
is. I mean, I think we've all sort of been talking about this population, maybe from the effects of something that happened in, 2020, 2021. And we've been sort of expecting to see something, right? And of course, nothing is getting shown on the news. But now all this information is coming out, yeah, of especially China, right? And empty, like we're talking, they're now saying there's videos out there saying that the population might be like a couple of 100 million.
Well, I've discussed China's population in several programs, and Consistent said that it's absolutely not the official 1.4 billion, and it's no more than 100 million. And also, I don't want to come across as sensational by making unsubstantiated claims. That said, a number of viewers have written to me, sharing their thoughts and information on the matter. I decide to finally confront the question head on. China's real population is not anywhere near 100 million either. It's somewhere between 300 and 400 million. Yes, you heard that right. China's actual population may be only a fraction of the official 1.4 billion.
So we're talking like a billion people. Of course, with China, it's a bit weird because they had the one child policy. So, what was their actual population anyway? But yeah, the thing is, the cities are empty. These massive, massive cities. There's no one there. There's no one working. All the shops are shut. And the people reporting it don't seem to know any of they just sort of say everyone's gone. They don't seem to have any relationship to any of these people.
I really can't understand it. There are very few people in the village, and I don't expect there are so few people in Shanghai either. Where do all the people go?
The holiday's already over. Where have all the people in Beijing gone? I don't know if you've noticed, but there are no people on the streets in Beijing. There's nobody in malls, nobody on the streets, nobody anywhere. I feel like there are fewer and fewer people in Beijing, but I just don't know where they've all gone. So I'm really curious, if there are no people in the county or in the provincial capital, where have all the people gone?
In Shanning, with a population of over 4 million, there's no one at the tourist attractions, no one on the streets, no one in the shops, no one in the malls, and no one in the supermarkets. Even the factories are empty. Where have all the people gone? I remember when China had a population of 1.2 billion. There were people everywhere. The streets were packed. Everywhere you went, it's all packed. Now, with a population of 1.4 billion, you can't see anyone anywhere. What's going on? I've been in Wuhan these couple of years, and it feels like there are fewer and fewer people. Before, at the Optics Valley roundabout in Wuhan, you couldn't even get on a bus. During the Lunar New Year travel rush, you had to climb through the train windows, but now you don't even need to lift your feet to get on a bus. Where has everyone gone?
So what is this? Is this,
Yeah.
Is this got to do with 2020, 2021, or is this maybe something more to do with a new Earth that people have been talking about and rising frequencies.
Yeah. So when we started looking at China, obviously for a lot of people, we started looking at China with the ghost cities. So, I mean, there's been a timeline in China unfolding. So the ghost cities were like, what the fuck is all these ghost cities? 1,300 to be exact.
Yep.
Massive, empty, million plus,
Million
built for
plus.
million plus
Yep.
ghost cities. So that was a phenomenon. Of course, people explained it away by saying that, this was just an economic boom in China, or they were just pushing for jobs, etc., etc. But they're weird, and there's so many of them, and a lot of them are modeled off, it's like the cardboard replica of Europe, or great monuments from the rest of the world, and they're built really shit. A classic cardboard inverted recycled version, recycled version of
Yep.
the real thing. So the ghost cities were obviously a phenomenon. And then when I went there and it was empty, and it wasn't just empty in a eerie way, it was empty in like the infrastructure in China is so gigantic. Like everything's gigantic. It's gigantic in all directions, and yet there's no people. And every tourist attraction is literally set up for, hundreds of thousands of people to move through it. And there's no people. And there's all these big squares with all these shops, but no people. And then you go to the bigger cities like Shanghai and Beijing, which very famous, especially Shanghai, for its shopping precinct of the world, basically. And if you do any research on the history of Shanghai or Beijing, it's fucking busy and bustling. Like it is packed. And I know I was there in Beijing when I was 13, and it was
Yeah.
shoulder to shoulder. And we were at the Tiananmen Square seconds before that
Yeah,
exploded into
man.
the, which is
You were there through a
ironic.
Mandela effect.
Yes, so that was my first lead up to understanding a Mandela effect, because I was actually there. So I saw it with my own eyes, and then I watched it glued to watching it. It was being broadcasted live without any sort of media censorship, and it was horrific, and the student got run over. But cut to the Mandela effect of 2017, that student climbed on top of the tank and waved a flag, and no one got run over.
It was noontime today in the center of Beijing when a man walked to the middle of the Avenue of Eternal Peace, which, as it happened, was already occupied. He walked to the middle and stood there. The man was alone. The tank was not. It wasn't just a single tank he stopped. There were 18 tanks and armored carriers in this convoy, and while he talked to the crew and ignored the gunfire, he stopped all of them. One man alone, of course, can't stop an army. Except for a moment, that's exactly what happened here. For 3 minutes in the middle of the day, an army was stopped by a man who stood still. A man who'd made up his mind, it seems, though why we just don't know. But when bystanders rushed in to save this stubborn soul, it wasn't easily done. He was pushed away at last, faceless in the crowd. Safe, we think, but in a city verging on calamity.
So that was my first kickoff. So China is a notable observable point for me. So there we are. So Cam, we're there. We've got like the ghost city, and now we're getting all these videos come through in the last 2 months from Chinese people in China acknowledging that there's no people anymore, and they're all walking around really confused about it. And so Cam and I are like, what's really weird about this? We're getting all these accounts of Chinese people walking around going, where are the people? But there's no personal stories. As Cam said, there's no personal emotional stories. Oh my God, I went to work and all my workmates are missing. Like, where are they? Or, all the people in my building have suddenly gone. I don't know where they went. There's no personal distress in relationship to all these missing people. Surely I know some of them personally, and they're not there anymore, and I don't know where they are. That side of things is noticeably missing.
It's very strange. All the people in the city are saying, oh, they just all went to the country. And all the people in the country go, oh, they just all went to the city. And like
Yes.
there's reports of like whole towns in the country losing the population overnight.
That was weird.
That was weird.
We'll show that video here.
房无人住，有路无人走。There are houses, but no one lives in them. Roads, but no one walks on them. This is the largest abandoned village in the Chaoshan region. It used to be home to over 600 households, but one night, everyone suddenly moved away.
But yeah, that's weird, Cam. It was weird. Why? That was what they said.
That's what they said. So what can this mean? I guess another thing with China is they tend to be very controlled, that they are more of a sort of a hive mind population, I guess. Obviously boosted, can I say that? to the max.
Terribly. Times three, all of
Yeah,
them, every
yeah.
single person.
And some other things we saw when we were researching is their hospitals are full. And it's like of, teenagers, middle age, like the whole lot, and they've all got these weird, you know, diseases. So what's happened? Like, there's a few sort of theories we could sort of throw around, but just before we get to that, the other thing that came up was all these time traveler videos that were coming out a couple of years ago of people walking around empty cities.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. The empty cities. Yeah, you guys would have seen them. Insert video here. You would have seen them. These time traveling videos from people. One of the famous one is a guy claiming to be in 2027, I think,
Yeah.
and he's walking around and he's walking in really highly populated areas classically, and then into places like, banks and police stations and hospitals, places you couldn't normally go into, and there's no one there. So what's obvious to us about that is that it's showing an empty world, which is fucking fascinating because what are we always trying to figure out with Tartaria, Cam? Like,
Where did all
where
the
do
people
people
go?
go? So, I mean, that's pretty fucking insane when you like really think about it.
It's
Like,
totally, man. Like we've been, researching Tartaria, and obviously we got onto the resets, and all these pictures started coming out of empty cities.
mm-hmm.
And we're like, what's going on? Where are all the people? And then of course we have the whole repopulation with the orphans come in. So, it's like and obviously we talk about cycles, right? Are we at the end at the same point in a cycle? Because this looks like it's happening. And if you've been into your city, and by the way, if you go into your city, get some footage for us and show us how many people are there, because the cities that we've been to, we've noticed that the populations have dropped. Notably Melbourne, we were there a couple of years ago. That like was half the shops were shut down at least, but the population was just not there.
It's true.
It just
Yep.
didn't seem to be there. So let us know if it's the same in your, city. Do they seem like there's less people there? Because that's what we're noticing, and we want some evidence. Get us some videos.
Yeah, I mean, I literally spent my 20s after the monastery. I was back in Melbourne, I was catching up on the student type days. And yeah, we used to go out and this Fitzroy was packed in the evening. There was queues coming out of every building, every doorway. There was lines, the city was pumping. The nightlife of the city was on, and it was the
Mm.
same with Sydney. And it was the same with every other country that I've been to in my 20s and 30s. Like they were busy and pumping, and full of people. And now, if you walk through the streets, it's just completely up. It's just so different now.
Mm.
It is there. Where's the nightlife gone? And yet,
And the day life, right? I remember back in the 80s and 90s just walking through Perth, right?
yep,
Like on a Saturday, the mall would be full.
yep.
Like you'd be dodging people the whole way, right? It doesn't say, and back then we were supposed to have millions of less people. So how does this work? How does the population grow when the actual people seems to be getting less?
Yeah, and it's not like, I mean, yes, there's contributing factors. So yes, we've got like, in-house entertainment suddenly turned up the
Yep.
volume. We've got, online shopping has turned up the volume.
Yeah.
And we've got like obviously we had the COVID thing which turned down the volume. And so you've got these factors, yes. But at the end of the day, if you look at the world's population across the whole realm, like, the Western world's birth rates have plummeted. And we can see that with the increase of the IVF programs. Um,
Yep.
and you've got like people not having children. So the Western world, definitely not the like Islamic world. They have not stopped. Their birth
No,
rates are
they're
very
still having their
healthy.
7 and 8 kids, yeah.
But ours have declined dramatically, and China obviously went through communism, Jewishism, I should say, and it went through like obviously the one-child policy, huge global experiment there, very diabolical, very Jewish experiment, and then they
Can we
went
call them
through
Hebrews so that we don't
Hebrews,
get taken
whatever.
down?
Um, anyway, they've had a lot of trauma put onto them as far as trauma programming responses over the last 100 years. In fact, China's been so desolated. I mean, look, China, yes, but the whole of Europe went through the same with World War One and World War Two. Mental note for anyone who hasn't come across the documentary Battle for Europa, only available on Rumble. I can't believe I haven't seen it. Loving it, loving it, loving it. It's the story of World War One, World War Two, and essentially the parasitic agenda that run this world today, which is the
Becoming
Jewish
quite
agenda.
apparent. So
Becoming,
yeah, what's happened to the people? This is the thing, like that there's only, I guess not that many options. One is results from the boosters. Another that we sort of discussed was there some kind of mind control on? I guess you could link that to the NPC phenomenon, and where they literally, like this town in the countryside, where they just all told to get up and leave one night, and have they gone underground? Have they gone somewhere else? But another thing that we see a lot in the past, and we're seeing again right now, is the moving around of populations. We're seeing it big time in the UK. Obviously, a lot went on in the USA, and that's sort of still going. We've got the empty buildings in China, the empty cities. What's that built for? Is that maybe to house? So are they is that population being moved somewhere? Or is it being moved? Is it underground now and ready to go up again? Because it's kind of the same story again, right? Like the orphans, like where did they all come from? Like they just kind of seem to pop up from underground, right?
I mean, Cam, let's really linger on this one because it's actually mind-blowing if you really linger on it. We have spent literally the last 10 to 5 years, 10 years, whatever you want to, whatever, whoever you are, researching and trying to understand what happened in the last reset. We've literally spent all of our time trying to figure out what happened to Tartaria, what happened to the people, where did they all go, what happened, how could they have done this? How could they have pulled this off? How could they have got rid of all the people? How could they have taken down a whole gigantic, amazing, extraordinary civilization and then have there be no people and then repopulate everyone? Like, that has been the question on every Tartarian researcher's lips for years and years and years. And right now, we are potentially watching it for real play out in real time today. I mean, like that is a phenomenon. That to me is like that is a cyclic process that we are witnessing to actually be so obsessed to trying to understand how this happened and now to be living it in real time. I just want everyone to truly fucking linger on that concept. Phenomenal.
It seems to be happening, and we're definitely getting the signs, and we've been getting signs for a long time. I think for the last kind of 6 months, there've been a lot of videos talking about the population and the fact that it's declining, but of course for their agenda around the climate, they need to be pushing that it's growing, 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 right? Because we're these, bad little beasties that are destroying the world. So on one side they're saying no, it's declining, it's declining. On the other side, we've got China, the big boogeyman, and they're such a big boogeyman because there's a billion of them, right? But there doesn't seem to be anywhere near that many. So it's interesting. And I just saw another video of now they've come out, he's saying, oh no, there's billions more people. We got it wrong. We got it way too low. So they're trying to say like there's 10 billion and more. So this whole population thing that they're obviously playing around with it because they know that something is happening, and they probably know that because it's part of their agenda, right? So
Yep.
what
Yep.
are they doing? Where are these people going? Leave us your comments below, of course.
I think we can take the numbers out of the equation. Like, I mean, obviously, it's. I mean, the numbers, as if we take any of that for fact. Like, we don't have fucking clue how many people in this realm. So take the numbers out of the equation. I just don't believe any of it. But what we can believe is what we've observed with our own eyes. That we can believe. So we can all attest that in the 80s and the 90s, there were a lot more people, it seems, around us outside. Okay, so it seems that the cities were busier and bustlinger. The more exotic nations and countries were fully bustling. The population was obvious. We saw it with our own eyes. And now we can't see it the same way. I mean, I was down on I went to the movies the other day for the first time in honestly 5 years. And it was down in Maroochydore here in the Sunshine Coast. Huge mall, massive mall. It was a Saturday night. It was like, prime time, heaps of cafes, like bars, cafes, huge mall, cinema, all that stuff. Honestly, it was like a ghost town. There was hardly anyone there, like, a dozen or so teenagers lingering around, no one at the cinema, no one in the cinema. We were totally by ourselves. And it just felt like a complete ghost town. And this was just a standard set, like, literally, they built these places because there were people like coming to them. They build these malls, they put money into these investments because people are coming and there and engaged with it. Like, otherwise, what would be the purpose of building these huge, massive things? Like, it literally looked like a ghost town. And like, we're way past COVID now. That's just not a factor here in Australia right now. And in Melbourne, particularly in Melbourne, you walk down the streets, but it's not just the lack of nightclubs and the lack of, night activity. It's just like all of the millions of apartments are empty. The big, huge apartment blocks, all in the Docklands, all these places, like all the lights are off. You don't see the same sort of nighttime lights in homes, in apartments. And interestingly, Cam, when we were looking at this, I Googled, I was like, missing people cities and the next country that came up after China, it was fucking America. It was
Yes,
America that
that's
came
true.
up as having the top most 10 most empty cities. And they were like really big, very well-known cities. And it's just that they're like these gigantic cities that have very little people living in them.
Mm.
And that would be the same story, I would say, of Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane as well. And I think most of the audience would have a similar story to wherever they are located in the world. Like, the cities are there. Yes, there's people, but nowhere near the amount of people that would be attributed to such big cities.
That they used to be, and nighttime's a good one, right? If it's because everyone's staying home that we're not seeing them out in the street, well, there should be lights and stuff going off every night, right? And we'd be able to see that. So
Yep.
it seems to be emptying. And I was just thinking about beaches, you know, back 20
Oh,
years ago, the beaches were just packed, like they were
packed.
chocked, packed. And like the whole area around the beach, everything was just
Yep.
so many people. And you just
Yep.
don't see that anymore, which is an interesting one because when people go to the beach, they go outside.
Yep.
You don't even see it in the beachside communities anymore. So there seems to be something going on. So, let us know, what do you think? Are they shifting populations? Have they taken them underground? Is this some kind of NPC thing? The,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, so if we go to the NCP concept, so we've got a couple of theories. One would be that, and that was the idea that we were talking with Guy about. The idea that like this whole not non-person player is that sort of
non-player character.
non-player character. I never get it right. Non-player character, being that they could have been the babies of the children in the incubators, the clone kids. They
Clone.
don't have that internal monologue, so they're not basically generating reality or projecting reality. So they're not part of the system that like is required to even exist. So that, I mean, that's one concept, and that they're just being recalled. They're being recalled, and that recall process is just happening quietly and in the middle of the night, and they're being recalled to wherever they're being recalled to, and most likely that would be potentially underground. So
Hmm.
that was one theory. Is there anything you'd like to add to that? And it's an
That's
interesting one.
and yeah, it is. I mean, and you can sort of look at it from different angles. If you want to look at it as a computer, if we're in a computer type simulation, then that could literally be a delete button, right? It could like literally be just changing the program. which would kind of match up with, the Mandela effect, is all part of this too, right? This whole, which we mentioned about China, like something's changing, so I guess that's another option is this something to do with timelines? Like,
Yeah.
are we jumping timelines to a
Mm.
different place, or are we ascending, right? Like, is some of us, down here, is our frequency rising? And so we're actually going into a different band of frequency. And if we only have a certain range we can see, does that mean a lot of the lower frequency people, maybe soulless NPCs, have disappeared out of our view, right? Because we literally can't interact with them anymore because they're just too low in frequency, out of our range.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, note when we talk about frequency, it's not a judgment. It's just like a
Oh, yeah.
different frequency band. So that theory is the next one, which I think is probably the more accurate one, which is basically because when I worked on the Mandela theory and Mandela effect, and as you guys did, what struck me immediately was that when we come across the Mandela effect, and it happens and occurs, all representation, the entire signature of that mandala, that object, that thing, that event is deleted and removed from all time, from past, present, and future on all timelines. So if you go and search, like, well, the Bernstein Bears is a classic one, right? So there's like millions of books in libraries and people's homes, all of this book with it spelt this certain way. And then suddenly Mandela effect, and all books from all time, from all history, are deleted and changed, right? So there's like you can't find the evidence. Same with I remember I looked at like We Are the Champions of the World, the Queen song. I loved Queen growing up. So I'm probably satanic now, but I loved them growing up, and We Are the Champions, and it ended of the world. But with the Mandela effect, there's no of the world. So then if you
Mm,
go back and look at Queen singing or any documentation of this song, you'll never find of the world anymore. It's been deleted and removed from all timelines, past, present, and future. Is that what is happening to the people of China and the people in general? Are they being removed? And as Cam said, either from a frequency shift. I mean, we've all seen that, the split in the earth, that symbol of the two earth split, that symbol of the new earth, the old earth, the 5D earth, the 3D earth, that split, right?
mm,
Are they being removed in the same fashion as the Mandela effect has altered things, people, places, things, time, and events? And so that when someone is removed from the frequency band, all memory of them from past, present, and future is also removed, which would include people's memory of them as well. Does this explain, Cam, why people in China are not putting up videos of total distress, that there's like millions of people missing, and surely they know some of these millions of people, but they don't seem to know any of these people? Are they just simply being deleted from all memory of space of time, for including family members and friends? Like, and I think
mm. Makes sense.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, that's how somewhere along my line, I couldn't remember when we were talking the other day, somewhere along the line, I remember receiving a teaching on this topic, and it may have been on the what's the religious one where the rapture.
Oh,
It
yeah.
may have been on the topic of the rapture, that someone asked, what happens to all
Mm,
the people who are left behind? Won't they be really distressed, and won't it be just so horrible and traumatic? And I believe the answer was something along these lines, which was when they leave, they all memory of them leaves with them. So no one will even remember that they were ever there, including their mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers, and they will not remember. And this is what I feel, Cam, is kind of vaguely happening in fucking China. I have to go
mm.
get my power cord. We're going for a walk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, it seems that way. Obviously, Dolores Cannon sort of first brought out this concept of the split. And, there's been, obviously, especially in the last 5 years, so much talk about this
Mm.
5D reality, the new earth, the whole raising frequency, raising vibration kind of conversation. And so is this what's happening? Because, we've got to admit that the things like the Mandela effect exist, and how, because in the concept of the world that we live in, that we've been given, that's completely impossible, right? So
Yep.
we have to sort of go out and look at different options, and that would be things like timeline jumps, or frequency jumps, or the Earth split? Is it like the Earth is splitting like an embryo, right? The first two cells when they split. And when they do that, that they're joined, right? And that join gets smaller and smaller, right? Where they overlap until they break. And so is that what's happening? Literally, as one Earth or cell or whatever is moving apart, the people left in the middle get less and less. So people would start disappearing, right? Is that what's going on? Is it like, yeah, a frequency thing so that when you hit a different frequency, literally you can't even access that frequency, right, anymore, the one that you've just stepped up from. And
Yeah.
is that why they're not remembering the people? Or is it just that it's a program and they're all NPCs and
And there's, I think,
no, we're
less of
just
that.
background people, so no one
Yeah.
really had relations with them in the first place, right? They're just background people.
Oh God. I mean, I would hope not. I feel less of that less towards that concept. Um, it just feels a bit like it just feels a bit more, that one feels more like a soulless computer game sort of notion. And then who are we to judge who are those people versus us? I mean, I liked the idea that they were the clone, that there are babies that repopulated the earth that came out of incubators and weren't brought up
Mm.
in a family unit and did their whole history was eradicated because there's no elders around. Like I think that is viable and makes a lot of sense. And then this whole concept of a lack of internal monologue, which I can't validate myself. I've never met anyone who has this going on. Have you?
No, I've seen an interview with someone and I have researched at least they say it's a real thing. And I can't remember the percentage. I think it was like 30, 40% of it was quite high that have no internal monologue. And I don't even know how that works. Like, how do you live without an internal dialogue? I don't know. If that's you,
I
then
mean,
no.
I can't imagine that anyone on this chat would have that because you wouldn't even be able to, you wouldn't be here asking these questions or even interested
Well, you
if that was,
couldn't. Mm,
yeah, you wouldn't have it. So, all right, so that there is
mm.
something in that.
Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
we know that there's cloned children and then they've had children and that's passed down through generations now. That's
Well,
fact.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And like it's a lot of circumstantial stuff around there too, like why they are so protective of their bloodlines, right? That would make sense if you're into cloning, right? And of course, all the stars that have come out and literally said they're clones and
Yeah, I
all the
know.
weirdness around that
Yep,
and famous people like changing, that's why they brought in plastic surgery, right? So they can, oh, they
yep.
just had plastic surgery. And this sort of whole narrative. So clones, and I was just thinking in the Bible, right? In the Bible, there's two creation stories, right?
True.
God who creates man and
Yes.
woman, and then the Lord
Yep.
creates a woman from man's rib. Is that telling us that there is a creation, like people down here with souls, right? And then there's a cloned population, which were the second ones, which was the second creation story.
Oh, that's a good theory. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, it seems to
Mm.
be that, right? Like we've all had the experience when you try and talk to someone about, actual concepts, and they can't compute. They either ignore you, they just stare at you stupidly until you finish, and then they just talk like you've never said anything, or they
Mm.
lose their shit. Like they just, you can't
Mm.
talk to these people, right? They're different.
There's difference, definitely. And then obviously the jab, that's emphasized it even more. And the thing with the jab is that you actually gave permission at that was consent. There was consent and ownership basically of your soul and vehicle because you gave consent to a corporation like owning what's inside of you. That and so that sort of consent that sort of also maybe leads a pathway to the split concept that we're looking at now. I mean, when we were talking about this the other night, you mentioned the Celestine prophecy, and like if there's and hello, everyone here probably started their whole spiritual path on the Celestine prophecy. Let's remember what that book was talking about, Campbell.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was talking about, looking out for coincidences and things, a
Yep.
lot about energy. But the whole basis really was to raise your energy, right? Raise your frequency. And at the end of the movie, they're standing there and they raise their frequency so that the soldiers who are hunting them can't see them. Like literally, they're showing us, and we've got stories, like the Toltecs and other civilizations who
Yep.
seem to have just disappeared. Right?
Yes.
That there doesn't seem to be any explanation. They were there fully functioning society one day, and the next they were gone. So, again, cycles, right? Has this happened before? We've got all these clues that this is what does happen and has happened, but it's still a very out there concept to really get your head around, isn't it? Because it's proof that everything's frequency. It's not a solid world. We're making the solid world, but there's something else going on, right? That's much more fluid than we were taught
Yep.
the world is.
Yep. Let's all remember that because it was like that triggered off most of our spiritual journeys. And like the thing about that book is quite literally they shifted their frequency and were no longer viewable. They literally disappeared.
Yeah,
And then they saw beings that were in the high frequency. They
they
appeared.
did. Yes.
So you've actually got this like amazing, I guess, I mean, take it as real or not real, but you've got this spiritual book that we all started on, and here we stand, all collectively asking what happened in Tartaria, what happened to that civilization. And then you've got actually in front of our eyes today, people, the populations just seem to be literally disappearing, and
Mm.
no one's distressed about it. No
Yeah.
one's even like they're all wondering what's happening. Where is everyone gone? But they're not distressed. Like it's not personal. And it's really interesting. So then it's like, okay, so, and also, Cam, we've got the time sped up. Like for
Yeah.
us, for this community here, it is absolutely, I believe now, no one is denying the fact that time has sped up. But is it only speeding up for us? That was the question we asked the other night. Like, are we the ones experiencing the time, the quickening occurring to us? And
Yep.
is it part of this split that not everyone is experiencing? And for those whose consciousness has expanded enough to pick up on the quickening of frequency and vibration, time is starting to speed. And I got told that really fucking clearly in 2013. Time is speeding up. It's called the quickening. This is what's happening. This is happening to you. This is happening to us, right?
Mm.
So, and just like the good old fan analogy, Cam, which we've all heard, where, you got the fan on one, you can still see the blades. You put it on two, can't see the blades so much, but put it on the highest level, it's just like, it's a whirl,
Right.
you
Right.
can't identify the blades, right?
Mm.
Similar concept. So time for us appears to be speeding up, and we're observing from that place where we currently are and stand, people disappearing.
Yep.
So, can we like theorize here
Yeah.
that we, the ones who are conscious of this, are now in a position of observer
Yeah.
on this
Yep.
realm? We
Yep.
are literally observing the collapse of the what would you call it? Observing the collapse of
The
the
Matrix or
the
whatever it
matrix
is.
or of this current reality.
The overlay. Yeah.
Because the question is, what are we doing here? Why
Wow.
are we here
Yeah.
exactly?
Yeah, yeah. So also when, frequency rises, it gets faster. So that's the link with frequency rising and time speeding up, right?
Yeah.
Is that what's going on? And we raising frequency because they tell us, right? We can only see from infrared to ultraviolet, right? And that's
Yeah.
our reality, right? That's our seven color spectrum, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What happens if you shift up that scale, right? You can see more on one side, and on the other side, that just disappears, right? So new
Yeah.
bits open up to you, and bits disappear. So is that what's happening? They've literally gone out of our frequency, right? It's like if you only have an AM radio station, right? You can't tune into FM. It's not in that bandwidth anymore. So yeah, we were talking about, is this what's happening? And if so, what the hell are we still doing here, right?
I mean,
Everyone's
yeah,
disappearing. Are we here to witness? Because we know that it's
we're
like,
the
if a
creators.
tree falls in the forest, does anyone hear it, right? Who knows? Like the double slit experiment, there needs to be an observer for anything to happen. There needs to be witnesses. Is that what we're doing? Witnessing the
Yeah.
fall, and we're here to make it happen, because with no witness, it doesn't happen.
But also, even further than just being the witness here, we're actually the projectors forward. But so,
Yes.
like for me, when I say us, I would say the distinguishing difference was made when the Mandela effect was introduced to us as a concept, and you were either someone who remembered or did not. So you are like us that went, hang on a minute, that didn't happen that way. That did not. I remember this. I remember. So you were not impacted by that shift. And I would say classically in this community, we were not affected or impacted by whatever occurred then that shifted that frequency. We still remember the old way. We still remember the old version of events. And interestingly, we collectively are all obsessed with understanding the old realm. Like the old realm is organic to us. It inspires our memory and our imagination. We want to understand what happened. We are focusing on the so when we talk about history, we're straight there into the old realm and we see it as beautiful. We see it as advanced. We see it as harmonious. We see it as airships, airships, airships. Whereas like we don't see spaceships, spaceships, spaceships. We're all about the airship, right? We don't see new smart cities as desirable. We're all about the old realm. We don't see these new memories as true. We're all about what we experienced in the old memories and that they're true. We are planted here as a direct link to the old realm, to the old earth, to the old history, to the old stories. So, from that perspective, it appears to me that one of our biggest purposes, if not the reason for us all to gather in this moment in time and space with choice and intention, is to be the link to from this like um during this split, because now it's feeling more and more like a split, right? Now we're literally feeling like we have a vibrational split more and more and more. And our consciousness is over there in the old realm, not over here in the new futuristic AI space realm, right?
Mhm.
So as we stand here as observers, we're not only just observing the collapse, we're the one that's fucking making it happen because
Yeah, this
we're
is what we've been
obsessed.
asking for, right?
Yes, we're obsessed that it's shit now. We're obsessed that it's broken, that it's fake, that it's a deception, that it's cardboard, that it's all fucked, it's all wrong, it's all bad. Like it reminds me of the Langoliers, the Stephen King horror movie, The Langoliers. Like it just like feels like a tasteless cardboard cutout of itself. Our sensory interactions do not get stimulated by it anymore. We only find that in nature and per people contact. That's where we
Mhm.
find sensory harmony. But to cast our eyes on the world as it is, we're detached. We're detached. We're detached. So now we stand here not only of the observers of it collapsing, we are the creator energies that are bringing that about.
Yes,
Like it couldn't
totally.
happen without us, right? We're the ones that have been obsessed that it's happening. Campbell, we're the ones that are obsessed that there's an apocalypse coming. We're the ones obsessed that there's a reset coming. We're the ones obsessed using this language that something's happening, something's coming, something's happening. We are the ones projecting that forward.
Yeah, man. We're the ones creating it, right? Everything is created by thoughts. Thoughts become things. And this is literally, we're watching what we've been asking for. We've been asking for the collapse of this, of for the famous
Yes.
people and the celebs to be exposed and all this
Yep.
stuff. It's all happening, right? And so
Who
we're
else is
here.
asking for it?
Yeah,
No
well,
one else is asking for
no,
it.
not the masses, that's for sure, man. They're watching the news still.
It's all the
And
conspiracy theorists.
yeah. Um, and I talk a lot about like the overlay, right? I believe that
Mm.
that we've been invaded, right? And there's been an overlay, which is essentially a spell, right? We've
Yes.
been taught what to see and what's real and all this. And I think that affects our frequency, right? It puts us down into a more solid frequency. So, as another theory, how did Tartaria fall? Well, did some big magicians just come down and start doing some spell magic, take apart the frequency network that was there, and they put up another spell, right, which dropped us in frequency. So we ended up in this weird
Yeah.
world where the
Mm.
old world was collapsed and collapsing, and there was all this new shit everywhere. But it's an overlay, it's a spell. Is that now lifting? Because that's what the apocalypse is, right? The veil lifting is that
Yeah.
the overlay, the veil, and like as we are literally from that old world, and that old world literally still exists, and it comes more into our reality as our frequency rises, and that's kind of what's been happening over the last couple of years, right? We've been getting used to this, the old world. We've been seeing the buildings, we've been wondering
Yeah.
what they are, we've been working out the earth grid and how things work, and free energies back in the conversation, and water and all this stuff. So we're starting to learn about this world. So it's becoming more present to us, right? More in our vision, more in our frequency. So that's another thing that could be happening is this overlay included all these people which were basically there to try and make us believe, they're the echo chamber, right? But
Yep.
now the internet's the echo chamber, so they don't necessarily need so many people.
Yep.
So are we literally, waking up, as they say?
It's interesting because I believe that part of our purpose is that we came down with distinguished full-bodied, soul-embellished light, and that it can't be distinguished. Like it cannot be eradicated. It's just like it's us. It is us. It is the life force that runs through us. It can't be programmed in that way, like only temporarily. And then soon enough, it starts to be questioned. And it's innate to all of us because that's our purpose to be like we have somehow signed up in some capacity or we've evolved to some capacity. So it may not have even been a coordinated, a front. It may have just been that we've evolved through certain, frequency bands, and in that evolution we come to this moment which seems to be cyclic anyway, where we can not only are we observing the collapse, we're the ones causing the collapse. We're the ones who have disentangled from the reality outside of us, that are detached and not interested and certainly not emotionally involved at all. Like we're not going to get excited by, much happening out there in the world itself as far as politics or, I mean, all of that stuff. All of that stuff seems so deceptive in every way. You can't even put your finger on it properly, but we're certainly not like emotionally impassioned by it. It
Mm.
certainly just feels like a recyclable replica. And in fact, most of us just take joy out of watching it like a
Watching
movie, like
it
it's
collapse.
it's like watching. So
Yeah,
so not only are we the ones that have disengaged emotional responses from these things, which is how you have to create reality, right? You need to have that emotional reality. Or and plus, we are the ones that are now speeding our frequency up. We're the ones that are now, observing this and asking the questions. And as our eyes perceive it and we speak it out, everyone else's eyes perceive it and speak it out. And it's just like, it's inevitably in our control right now. It's in, and probably at really was always that way.
totally, man. He with the biggest stream wins, right? And we're winning. Like, and this is the thing, like the Allies, those who wish to control us, they can't create. That's why they're using us to create. That's why there's so much emphasis on education and spells and
Yeah,
music and movies and the echo chamber, right? The peer pressure, the people at your workplace that, that's why we're always the weirdo, right?
yeah,
We're always the like you never find a group of people and they're like, oh yeah, this is the black sheep group. It's always you on your own, right?
yep,
Like against this whole massive echo chamber trying to get you to believe what they believe, because that's how
yep.
they control reality. But that is clearly not working anymore, because we've gone down these rabbit holes and we've
Yes.
kept expanding our awareness. We now see more, and the truth is, plain to see, right? It's just there. So as we all in our own time and different levels and that hit a certain point, we all see the same thing because the truth is evident, right? When you can
Yep.
just see it. So yeah, we've created the biggest dream, which is for the system to collapse. We're all, consciously moving away from the system and trying to be less involved and trying to create more of the world that we want to interact with. And it seems that we're witnessing the literal collapse of this
Yeah.
overlay of the
I
system,
mean,
including, the people in the echo chamber, the whole thing, right? The whole peer pressure, the whole come and be part of the group, herd mentality. Gosh, heard a bit about that a few years ago, but this is the thing, is it because it seems to be right. The last couple of years have been insane. This year, I mean, like we're almost at the end of April. Like we're 3 weeks through April. Like
so
that's a third of the year almost gone. That's crazy.
okay, so let's go back to the emptying of the cities.
The
I mean,
emptying.
I just want everyone to really linger on that. I mean, it was quite a extraordinary thing to witness, like to actually be so obsessed with what happened to Tara and actually to now compare it to our actual reality.
Yeah,
Because we having studied history, we spend our time trying to make sense of our reality via history. But now to compare our reality to what unfolded in the past from the timeline perspective is absolutely fascinating. And to so from this concept, and like let's add in the Celestine prophecies because it really did start our whole spiritual journey on this, which was the end of the book, by the way. Getting to this point was literally, the end of the book.
Yep.
So, and now here we are at the end of that teaching, which is now people are disappearing in front of our eyes, but in a completely unemotional way, just like
Mm.
they're just deleted. And then I was actually talking to Cam about this because I wondered. I have had an experience of a Mandela effect physically in my existence where something appeared and reappeared in front of me. So I've had an actual experience like that. But I've also all the other Mandela effects, obviously I can relate to my life and um but as far as like talking to anyone who's experienced a missing child. And when you look at the statistics on missing child, there's millions a year that apparently go missing. If you look at the statistics that are statistically reported, but
Mm.
I've never met anyone who's experienced a missing child, nor do I ever, rarely, hardly ever see documentaries or reports of parents and families who are totally traumatized
Mm.
by having a missing child. Like, we don't see any of that. I know the news doesn't report on it, but outside of that, you would think that within all this social media now, there'd be just families, millions of families worldwide having something to say about this, desperate to fight. But I never see any of them. So I don't know anyone who's experienced a missing child. I
Mm.
don't know anyone who's just disappeared. Like that's obvious in my reality. Now, if we are not impacted by the Mandela effect, we are the ones that will remember. So if anyone goes missing if suddenly you wake up and like half the houses in your neighborhood are empty and they were there yesterday podding around like normal, like we would know, we would see it, we would be, where's the neighbors gone? But anyone
Yeah.
affected by the Mandela effect would just like carry on like it never even happened and there was never anyone there. It's not out of the ordinary, nothing. What are you talking about? It's no one been living there forever, sort of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. I
So
mean,
I'm
that's an
one,
interesting point, just so quickly, like the Mandela effect, like, yeah, it's us whose past isn't changing, our memory isn't. It's everyone else's whose timelines are jumping around, right?
yeah.
Because yeah, when things change, they all get a download or whatever, they believe something different. Yeah, so this is why people, yeah, like
Yeah.
where are the people, but they're not saying much. But we're questioning, where are they? What the hell's going on?
Yeah,
Because we
so
remember, yeah,
I'm wondering what happens when it happens in close proximity to, and
yeah,
is there like a buffer zone? So, for example, if someone in my family went missing, like just disappeared, like seriously, millions of people have just disappeared all over China and other nations, may I just add, all nations, Australia included, like, would we then have a schism? Would that create a schism? Like for a conscious observer to witness people disappearing, would that schism something out? Because
yeah,
I don't know anyone who has gone missing or who has like had
no,
anyone go missing or any emotional distress. It seems like it's obvious that it's happening.
yeah,
So to me, that's an interesting phenomenon. Would that schism,
yeah.
if someone in my family went missing, but I knew they'd gone missing, but then no one else has any direct memory of them ever existing in the first place, what would that cause? What impact would that actually, what would happen?
Mm. It's a good one, and as a sort of a follow-on effect, China's a good one, right? What happens to people who run companies that rely on Chinese products? What happens if all the people running that company disappear and it was like they never were? What's the follow-on
What's
effect
the
again? Like what
exactly,
happens to that person? Does their business, could never have existed, right? And
exactly.
also, it's interesting what we've been seeing in the news recently with, old Orange Man and tariffs. And what's the result of what's happening? He's trying to get all this productivity and manufacturing going in the USA so that they don't need products from China. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because there might not be anyone in China to make those products anymore. So is this all part of a covering up agenda?
I mean, it's so interesting. Exactly. So is that what COVID was all about? Because what did COVID do publicly and very publicly? It shut businesses down.
Yeah,
It very publicly caused this shutdown, right, of the economy, of businesses, of shops, of places people would be and socializing. It was very public about that. But was that just all a cover up so that this was covered up and it was explainable? It was
Yeah.
justifiable. It made the world go, oh, that makes sense. The COVID affected so many people, they don't have business anymore. So the cities are
Yeah.
dead. But but it seems to be not only are the cities dead, but because normally in the past, like if something happens like a nightclub closes or say 10 nightclub close, it's not that the people go anywhere, it's just the venue's gone. So there's people on the street. There's
Yeah.
people everywhere on the street. They just don't have a venue anymore. But we're not seeing that. We're seeing, and COVID really did tick a lot of justifications there. Oh, everyone's just staying at home. No one wants to go out anymore. It's got too expensive, Netflix, yada, yada,
Mm.
yada. But let's not forget that the whole mandate of human happiness is human to human connection. That's why we're a social community. That's why we gather. That's why all those things were invented in the first place, because that's our nature. That's how we get energetic subs. That's how we regenerate ourselves. It's by connecting and communicating. That's why we're doing the Jolly Swag Tour. It's about getting people together, and that's our mandate. Make
Mm.
known the unknown and be in community. That's our two mandates as human beings from our perspective. So
Indeed, yes.
didn't COVID just provide such a
It's
brilliant worldwide justification
totally.
for this phenomenon?
Yeah,
Such a
yeah.
good cover up.
And this is the thing, if we're correct, and that, a lot of the population either don't remember or their memories change as things go along. They basically don't witness what's happening, right? It's just our group, right? I'll call it our group. Apart from everything and the closing down and the, shops disappearing, like as we go on, as the population reduces, we've got a reason. We can go, oh, it's because of the boosters.
Yep.
So clear. Yeah, of course people are disappearing, but is that just part of the
The
story, right? So
story.
to cover up that
Yep.
people are actually disappearing.
I know, because like if you look at the original Tartaria, the photos that just appeared, by the way, and okay, so that's the other thing. Does this shift actually generate the evidence of the other side? So before
Exactly.
people started talking about Tartaria, there were no pictures. There was no
Maps.
amazing maps or historical museums full of these
Yep.
cityscapes with no one in them. They didn't exist almost. So did the change create the existence of them? Again, making it very lofty what is reality. But like in those images, there's like all these cities, but you don't see businesses. You don't see like people with stuff on the street selling stuff. You don't see that economy booming, but there's people suddenly in all these cities, but there's no like shop fronts,
That's
those
true. Yeah.
the
They're
buildings
just all
aren't
over the street, right? That's
yeah, they're
weird.
all over the street. The shop
Like
fronts are there. And what do
like
you see today?
dazed.
You
Yeah.
see cities that have like all these
It would
shops,
be
but they're all
function.
shut.
Yeah. Mm.
There's no activity in them. There's no marketplace. It doesn't seem to be documented. And they're all we get are these city scenes and people in the act on the actual streets, but not in the shops. We don't ever go into the shops. We
Mm.
don't ever see the shops. We don't, they're all wearing the same thing. They're not
Yep.
eating on the street. Like that economy of individualized choice and innovation is missing, and we can see that again today. And it's just sort of occurred and it's justifiable, but there it is. All these cities, all these shops, all these malls, all these department stores, they're there, they're open, there's things in them, nothing is going on around them. And so they're shutting.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. And just another one is we talked about the whole food, where's all the meat coming from for fast food? Well, maybe there's not as many people here as they tell us, right? And so that would, they have to keep up the facade of 8 billion people, right? So they have to put their consumption rates up.
Yeah,
Is that why there's such a difference between what's produced and what's consumed? Is the fact is there's just not that many people.
yeah,
But that's
exactly.
just all part of the scam.
And so it's interesting because I think one of the things I watched on the China was people were using AI to study the change in the consumption of salt and sugar.
Yeah.
So then I asked the question because it's gone down. It's one of the things that they're using to like validate that this is actually really occurring in China. So then I'm interested because if this is a Mandela effect, which is probably a very clumsy word for this, we probably don't have the right language to explain what this phenomenon is. But in our most ruditory understanding, let's
Rudimentary,
use
yeah.
them rudimentary, um, is that we call it the Mandela effect, right? So if the Mandela effect is occurring to people, would that then, as you were saying just before, it change the consumption of food and sugar and salt just through all time as if it was never anything different? Or are we going to see a literal shift in the consumption rates going down? Will it follow the population going down, or will it just recalculate itself throughout all time in history? If you have
Mm,
someone who is using a Chinese factory, one could assume that with the whole world dependent on China to make objects and items for sale, the whole world and all the businesses that rely on China to produce product, if suddenly the people producing that product and that was suddenly Mandela affected, as if they never existed, what happens to the product that they were creating and the means of production future forward on that product? Does it just cease to exist? I mean, I can't even, that would be such a schism
wow.
across the whole fucking world.
I mean, it's an interesting one, right? Does that come down to, sort of these time travel concepts, right? So that if something was here and enough people knew about it and were using it, when history gets deleted, does it also have to rewrite itself?
Well,
So,
that's what it
like, are
does.
we going to start witnessing like factories and businesses popping up in different countries that we're like, that never existed, and everyone else is like, what do you mean? It's been there forever. We've always made these little plastic things that you get at the markets in Australia. Come on, what are you talking
Well,
about, China?
you know what? I actually saw an example of that the other day. It was actually it was an image of a clock. Did I send it to you? It was like just an alarm clock. It was like those, those square flat ones. They used to be
Yeah,
in the motels a
a
lot.
digital
And
one.
the
Yeah,
digital ones,
yeah,
like
yeah,
always I would see them in the motels. So there's this one in America that was just so like it looked familiar to me when I looked at it, right? Because it looked like these clocks that I grew up with. I'm a hotel child. And so but actually, and so they put this out there and they did it, and 99% of the people remember this clock, right? That they surveyed, it never existed. But 99% of the people, including myself, felt like they had seen and this clock was a
yeah.
real object. It
I
had
remember
never,
them. Wood
never,
grain, red
yep,
numbers. Yeah,
yep, that's right, never existed. And
never
so
existed.
so it's just so we lived through the time when they definitely existed, and this clock never existed. I mean, I'm not saying
So,
that clocks like it didn't exist, but this particular clock that
mm,
they surveyed had never been created.
well,
So, and look
again,
how
we're
just
just here to play
integrated.
witness, right? We're just here to witness it so it can happen. So we have to remember the past because if you don't, then you don't see the change, right? We're witnessing the change.
So we've then got our attention. So we should be seeing some really weird shit unfold then, for because like think about where our consciousness is. It's in the expose of Tartaria and the historical narrative around all that stuff, or everything to do with that.
Yeah,
Will obviously make itself known because we are obviously focused on it and we have connected our timeline to it, which one could say that we're going to the old Earth, not the new Earth, that the new earth itself is this artificial earth,
that's yeah,
this,
the
and to be
overlay.
part of the artificial earth you have to have given consent and permission, even if it was not outwardly known to you that you were consenting to such a thing. When you consent finally, are you then in alignment to be, morphed into that new world using the Mandela effect as its vehicle, whatever that is, and yet we stay focused on the old world. So our timeline is returning. And so we should see some really crazy shit. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if there's like this big, like, from where I'm standing right now, this big celebration of who Hitler was, as probably as like the first and only light-led leader of the world that managed to like take its country out of the Jewish banker reign and actually was truly a good human being of our ilk. Are we going
Mm.
to see that sort of narrative break through the programming? Because that is
That
such a
would be
programmed.
massive.
It's
And so I
massive.
forgot to put the trigger warning in there, people. If you're triggered, go and watch Europa, The Last Battle. In
Honestly,
yourself.
and like, and
Um,
the
hmm.
sorry, go on.
I was
Yep.
going to say, I mean, I'm thinking more, imagine if businesses pop up or if all these like Detroit and things in America, the old, massive cities that were just there for auto industry and now they're dead. Like they might just pop up and be fully functioning cities again that never died, right? Because the whole China thing would have never happened. And no one working there will know, but will be like, what the hell?
Yeah, what the hell? Because if you think about America now, I think the so much that comes out on America is their crisis with homelessness. And there's all these people fucked on drugs and on the streets. It's like that image gets sent across the internet so much. And
Yeah.
yet, when you research America, these huge, humongous cities with this millions of houses are standing there empty with barely a car on the street, empty motorways, like the complete opposite to the images you get like
If
shown
you
of
get
America of
told.
being a hustle, bustle, dynamic energy and people and all this stuff. And it's so
Well,
much going on.
I
There's so
mean,
much homelessness because there's so much going on and we can't cope.
yeah.
But
I've seen
actually,
heaps of footage of New York with the whole homeless camps and I haven't been in New York, so I don't know sure what streets they're on, but they seem to be pretty empty, right? And I was just thinking back, remember all those movies that were based in New York in the 80s? All the business, like Trading Places and Secret of My Success and all that. This they show Rush Hour and it like covered in people, like so many people. So
yeah.
is it still like that in New York? I mean, I definitely haven't seen any footage like that recently, but that's what we were shown in the 70s and 80s, this whole facade of cities growing and people everywhere and
And there
hustle,
were.
hustle and everyone running, around to get all their stuff done. But you don't see that anymore. So again, the question like, has the population already dipped a lot? And we're
I,
just sort of starting to realize it because
I mean, yeah, I mean, Cam, like the pictures we have of the reintroduction of people into the new realm, our reality, like there was more people on the streets then than you ever see
yeah,
today.
yeah.
And that says accounts for basically negative population growth.
Mm. So it's a crazy one, right? What do you think's happening out there, guys? Let us know. Have you got any other, ideas, concepts that we haven't sort of thought of? But it's interesting, isn't it? Does that mean that when we like finally get to this new earth, that we'll be the confused people standing around in cities going, "What the fuck is
Well,
this?"
I was about to say that exact thing
Yeah.
because, like, where will we stand at the end of this? Like, because what is happening now is we're standing here while people are disappearing. We're standing here while the businesses are closing. We're standing here while everything's reshuffling. We're standing here while history is rewriting itself. We're standing here being depressed. Like, so from our perspective, we will be the ones still standing here. We are going to stand here and witness and bring
So,
about the entire shift and we're going to live through it and we're going to see it and we're going to see it happening. And in fact, all of this weather control and all of this climate change agenda and all of this, you know, this idea of there being big earth shifts going on, like, when you think about that, it's another convenient story or cover up for this actual shift within timeline reality to bring us to questioning what is reality itself. Like, as
mm,
long as they provide enough justification for to cover up that conversation, that questioning pathway, then you know what I mean? Like, it's like everything is, you
yeah.
could say that everything in the last 200 years has been designed to justify what they knew was coming and what we would know once we started asking the question
Mm,
that something was coming like this. So, but then, you look at daydreamers in the plasma apocalypse. I'd never heard of that concept until maybe, I don't know, like 8 years ago. And it was really daydreamers that really started to bring me up to date on what that was looking like from his perspective. I love Jay's work for that. He stayed very true to his ideas and his theories and has never like he's just stayed true and he's kept working on them. And I like that energetic. He was definitely someone I would want to talk to get wisdom on that topic. Like he would be the person I would.
mm.
But is Jay's work, having said all that, is Jay's work and the introduction of that work, does it then inevitably, if we take it up and take it on, does it bring it about? Or would it happen independently of us? So that's another question. How much of this stuff happens independently of us?
Well, that's a good question. There's a lot of talk, is how much free choice do we really have? Is this a scripted existence? And
Yeah.
when you put it that way, like if there are certain things that need to play out, well, it would have to be scripted, right? Because we would have to bring those events about by thinking about them and wondering and projecting them outwards, right?
And does that mean, Cam, that all of this is just for us?
I think so. I think it is.
Yeah, it's all just for us. Are we just the ones having the experience here?
Yeah. I mean, that's all it is, right? There's only perspective. Like you can't really prove much, can you? You know, we've
Yeah.
learned that definitely with the outside world. All you can really prove is we're here and now, right? And we're observing something. Like,
I mean, if you really think about your day, all right, I mean, it's a head trip. If you think about all the information you take on in a day, like from all different areas of your life, every possible way that you could take on information in your 24-hour day, the majority of stuff that you actually take on board of information is happening way outside of you, like way outside of you, like following the politics. It's all so far outside of you. Following what's happening with the elections, what's happening with this or that. It's all the
yeah,
tariffs, the trade, all of that is so external from us. We have no personal relationship with it whatsoever. Like seriously, we do not. We don't know anything. I mean, we wake up and we see the environment around us. We see the weather that's occurring in that day. We see our fridges. We see the very small upfront reality of our actual, you know, environment.
mm,
But 98% of information that's going in on a daily basis is from sources that you have no actual personal relationship whatsoever. It's all information streams. That's all it is.
it's all a story, man. It's like those, dystopian shows you see where people are just sat down in front of TVs and that. That's literally it. But the TV is the whole world, right? Like all this stuff because, we've kind of talked about this before, but like, I don't personally know anyone who's died in a war. I don't personally know
I don't
anyone, like you said, who's lost a child. I don't personally know anyone who's,
I don't even know anyone
all
died of
these
COVID.
things, have done, yeah, I'm the same. So we have all these stories, right? And stories and stories, but unless we're actually interacting with it and experiencing it, well, it's not part of our story. Like Kelly said, it's way, way, way out there.
Way
They've got
out
us
there.
focusing on the shit that they want us to focus on. It's got nothing to do with us. We're here to create well, at least help create the world, I think, the reality, and to observe it. But they've got us, this is their trick, right? Get us to observe and pay attention to what they're putting out, what they want to create, right? It's like attention. Everyone thinks money's the biggest currency, but it's attention. That's what they want
Definitely.
the most is our attention.
And it's interesting because because they own the whole financial system, because that's under the control of this parasitic group. The way that they can take what's happening out there so externally, so far away from us, so removed, is to impact the economy, which they've bought into all of our homes. So it's like a thread. It's a
Yeah.
thread that they use the economy as like the basis of reality. We are impacted by it and we are affected by it on a daily level. Um, so that gives it sort of their reality validation. We call it we're enslaved by it. And the other side of things that we're enslaved by is like working and taxes and law. So we get enslaved by these concepts that affect our life. But if you just take it from the attitude of how many real life stories have you experienced that validate all of this stuff, validate these happenings, or validate what information we take, it's very small. It's
Mm.
very minimal. And then if you think about all the interactions you've had with the police or all the interactions you've had with, that side of things, like it's still very tiny and small. Like and the impact of the economy going up and down and changing the tariffs and trades, like it's still quite a small. I mean, yes, yes, I'm paying more on the mortgage. Yes, rent's higher. Yes to all those things, but it's not like I'm standing in a line trying to fight for a loaf of bread. So the impact is still quite small. Like the biggest part of the impact is believing about what's coming, the what's coming story. The recession's coming, the collapse is coming. It's the what's coming story. Always much bigger than the what is story,
Yeah.
isn't it? Like it's like that's the enslavement of the grid. Like they've really, you know, we're here, we're conscious, and we're shuffling around within it. We're still in it. And it's interesting because when you look at sort of how the impact of all of this deceptive reality has had on us, is that we have then put our attention on trying to understand how it came about. So their enforcing it onto us has caused us to counter react or react to it by then going in and questioning it and then piecing together the truth about it, the history of it, and the accurate timeline, which is then counter put into the culture.
Yeah.
So like this conspiracy world has been we've hit it with the truth lens, so it's like it's a battle. There's a battle going on in that,
Mm.
like, you know what
Yeah.
I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're projecting forward, right? Which is what they want us to do, is to think of what's coming and project it. But yeah, that's the battle. We want one thing, and that's the whole thing about this reset and apocalypse and bad stuff coming, and that, I totally believe that, the more you believe in that, the
It's
more you're going
hard,
to get
man.
affected from it, right?
It's hard.
It is. It's hard because this is the thing, is they've got us in the past, right, researching, or they've got us projecting forward, and because that's part of the time loop, right? Is we're not in the present enough. That's because we're focusing on things outside of ourselves all the time, which, they're doing, right? Hey, here's the truth. Here's the truth. When I think the truth is subjective, right? There's only your truth. What's true for you is true for you. Doesn't necessarily mean it's true for someone else, right? Because this whole realm is malleable, right? We're all in our own little worlds. It's all created by us, I think, and for us.
And so brilliant are they at this game. Like, but so brilliant are we at this game. Like, it's just, but so that's what makes me think that, are we here just to do this ourselves for our own personal growth and understanding as sovereign beings, or are we here to solve this big crisis on planet Earth that requires our attention, our godly attention to help sort it out? Like, so it's just like which part of the game you're coming in. It's an interesting concept. And man, I tell you, I don't think we're really ever going to truly potentially understand it yet. I mean, it might be, a few more games after
A
this that
few
we
more, a
fully
few
get.
more, a few more years of school, you reckon?
But I
Um,
can imagine that we could be standing here as like, in the same way that the new reset stood with
oh,
a few people on
totally.
the streets.
And yeah, I think, yeah, we're creating it all, right? And what if, like if this is a school, what would one of the biggest lessons to learn be? Well, it would be how to create, right? And to
That's our
do
mandate.
that, the first step of that is you've got to understand that you are creating anyway.
Yeah, and what
That's
that
kind of
means.
where we are at the moment, right? This is the thing that holds people like they're all like, I understand it's all energy, it's not really there. I create with my thoughts, but then get distracted by the outside world again.
Yeah.
Is that why there's so much distraction? Because it's our job to push that away and then go, hang on, my thoughts are creating reality. Because, if you can't create, well, you wouldn't release us on the wider population, right? Who knows what we'd create?
I mean, it's interesting too, because I would say if you're anything like me out there, like you fucking love this shit. Like you actually love it. You get turned on by it. You tuned into it. It's a lot of enjoyment. You have the best conversations. It's what you talk about with everyone. You love the people you talk to. It totally makes up a very, very fulfilling criteria in your life. As in,
Hmm.
we're all manifesting with joy on the topics of uncovering the worst rabbit holes. There's a natural, effortless, high energetic presentation of it because we feel like we are solving this problem by exposing this problem and
Hmm.
working it out and figuring it out. And in doing that, we're providing that service. And in doing that, it's having so no matter how diabolical the world is
Hmm.
appearing from all these external information strands, we're still hitting it with freaking light hearts, with
Hmm.
enjoyment and fun and intrigue. And so you can't counteract a vibration like that. That is perfect law of attraction behavior right there. You are
Hmm.
in a high level of enjoyment and fun, even if it's traumatic and shit, you're still enjoying it. You're still enjoying the understanding and the expansion of your own being, the expansion of your mind. You're in a high vibrational rotation when you look at this work. So from that, you're projecting forward like the truths that you're uncovering with a high vibrational energy behind you. And you're doing all of that naturally without even thinking about it, without
Mm.
even considering it. Whereas if you look at the external world, you all look at it through eyes of like, fuck,
And
fucking
yeah.
what? It's just like,
Well, they
just,
did such a good job, didn't they? Getting people out of the countryside and into the cities and offering them money so they can go and buy possessions. That now it's that's the pull back to, reality, right? To the physical world is, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that. Oh, but how do I pay the bills? How I need somewhere to live. And
it's
so
low vibrational output.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's low, and but it's done in such a way, this whole society, that we keep putting focus on it, and that's why it makes it so hard to step away
Yes.
and go, Actually, I can create something completely different," and believe in that enough to do it and go, "Fuck that," because like I said, we all need food, we got bills, we need houses, we got kids, all this stuff. So that really does keep us held in this position where we don't try.
Yep,
Most
agreed.
people don't step out in belief and go, I'm just going to create this no matter what because that's what I do. That's why it's hard to get to that place, right?
That's why I exist. That's why I exist. Yes, it's interesting because the thing is, though, we are taught that, the we know that the way they work is to generate fear, distress, trauma, pain, suffering. That's how they've taken over the world. That's what was behind every war. That's what was behind our whole history of the last few hundred years. And then according to their history forever and for all time it's been like this, right down to the pharaohs where every fucking pyramid and chamber are covered in paintings and sculptures of their warmongering gods, of the pharaohs with skeletons in their hands and bodies under their feet. Like it's been the same story since the beginning of all of our stories has been the same story, right? But the actual reality is that from a perspective of fear, a vibration of fear, your ability to generate reality is so diminished. You can hardly generate reality from that frequency range. Like it's very slow. That level of vibration is slow, like the rock. It's slow to manifest. It's slow to do much with because like you're using fear as the motive, as the projectile out. That's the emotion. It's very low. Whereas from our perspective, this whole stuff turns us on, tunes us in. We fucking love it. We love it. We have the best conversations, the best people. Everything about it is, and even all the protests were great, were fantastic. There are parties. Like it's always very, very sociable and fun and extraordinary for us. Our
Mm.
vibrational output on these topics is high, naturally high, meaning we're naturally projecting reality as we uncover this stuff. Whereas when we're just paying the bills or interacting here, we're barely generating any reality around us. So I
Mm.
just wanted to identify that we've been taught that, fear is what creates reality. But actually, so when we talk about if we put our focus on the apocalypse, we're focusing it out from a fear perspective, so it's going to become horrible. But in
Mm.
actual reality, whenever I talk about the apocalypse or the reset, all that stuff, I have to be honest, Campbell, there is like excitement in my presentation. There's energy, there's positive energy. So
Yeah.
what apocalypse are we bringing about? What plasmic charge are we bringing about? Because, I have to say, most people are kind of excited and joyful and they love the idea of something changing and that vibrational
Mm.
output would be kind of harmonized with this in a really positive way. So then, as Abraham would say, you don't have problems to solve. You just have fun solutions to find for fun problems that you're going to evolve. Like
Mm.
it changes the presentation of it being a desperate situation to a fun one to
Yeah.
solve.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Just make sure you're projecting yourself being in the right place at the right time, right? And that's the other thing is, I don't think many people think about this stuff and see themselves as one of the victims of it, do they? Like what we see it as, well, yay, the system's going to collapse. They can all bugger off finally, and I'll be fine. We'll be in the new world. So yeah, I mean, it is true. And it's interesting, like that, again, like 10, 20 years ago, most people were a lot more enthusiastic about their job, because I guess there was a bit of hope there that you still sort of had the belief that if you worked hard, you could buy your house and own it and you could retire early and have it, but that's gone, right?
Yep.
So is that also helping to collapse this whole system and work paradigm? Is that people aren't putting that much energy into it anymore, and whatever they're putting into it is just low non-creator energy, right? It's just this sucks, the government sucks, taxes, blah 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 blah. Because that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the disintegration of the system. And I mean, this year, love him or hate him, but Trump has said some interesting things, that we thought we would never hear from a politician, like, getting rid of income tax. I mean, that was crazy. It hasn't happened yet, obviously, but this is, you know, it's kind of like the llama corn story, right? Like you put out all this energy and then one day you got proof, right? You got a
Yep.
receipt and a dollar. It's the same kind of thing where like taxes, legal taxes, and then, that's part of the mat of it coming into reality is it's now been spoken, right, by one of the actors. So again, I
Well,
think we're causing this, right? We've put so much energy into the system collapsing, but based off the lives that we're going to create, right? Not focusing on the system collapsing, but where do we want to go? That it's just naturally collapsing. It's not getting as much attention anymore. So it's gonna
well, it's interesting because the Trump one from this perspective is interesting because, like, first of all, Trump is part of the
the
victorious Western Front that did become the victory, 100% victory for the Jews.
the
Um, what
yeah
word do you want me to use?
the Israelites or the
The
Hebrews,
Israelites, the
something like
Hebrews,
that.
all right,
Yeah.
whatever. Those people, we all know who I'm talking
And
about.
that's a
Like,
good point, right? Because we can tell that they're still in control because we can't even say their name.
yeah, it's totally censored, right? So in that way, we have to say that Trump is that as well, and that he is providing this, this hope. Did he get put in to provide the say the one that the truth community, the awakening truth community, like we're going to put their hope in, and then he ends up and nothing happens as a result. A few things happen, but and then how depressed will everyone get when Trump is like assassinated or imprisoned or removed or whatever, or he lives out his term but nothing's changed.
Mm,
Whatever the outcome, suddenly, and then what is going to kill the spirit of someone in the truth community if they put their hope in that,
yeah.
like more than that happening. And we
We,
all saw little hues of that going on
mm,
last time. But I think most of us would
but
have seen through it by then. But
it's a good lesson, right? Like that's the biggest lesson we need to learn is we can't follow leaders if we want to go and create something new.
yeah,
Can't expect someone to step in and do it
well, of
for
course
you,
not.
right?
That doesn't turn me on. I've never needed a governor or a government or a nanny state or
Mm,
any leadership over me. In fact, I have never felt that anyone is sovereign over me unless they obtain wisdom greater than mine. Then I feel the honoring of this person is
mm,
someone that I would have reverence for.
mm,
And when we met Dr. Sam from the Bosnian Pyramid, when he spoke with so much compassion in his being that I was so humbled. I would have absolutely have sat at his feet and listened to him speak. He brought me to a state of tears because I could feel the resonance of compassion in him.
mm.
That to me is leadership that I would agree to. And for me, as we watch out Trump, knowing that he is definitely part of the Jewish, sorry, the Israelite agenda, and as is Putin and all the great leaders, and that communism is completely of the Israelite agenda and the bankers, which means China is completely of the Israelite and bankers, and we watch all of that play out with disdain. But glee that we get to be conscious enough to observe it.
Yeah,
Um,
see it.
So, I mean, the Trump one's an interesting one. Obviously, there's a lot of things that you could, like the space fucking bullshit, the people that he put up on stage when he got inaugurated, like the fucking
Billionaires.
Amazon, the
Yeah.
space, the fucking the Elon Musk. I mean, all of that to me is just like riddled with the same old cardboard cutout recycled games that's playing out that has done for the whole. But not to brew and all that because I feel like you all know that. But let's just once again finally, before we finish the show, brew on the idea that people right now around the world, you're witnessing the Mandela effect of the human race. Oh my fucking God. We're literally watching the Mandela effect of the whole human race right now, and who is standing on this earth and who is standing on another frequency specific version that is changing in front of our eyes. It's so
Mm.
observable. It's so fascinating. Do some research, get into the videos on China, get into any videos about population and empty cities and emptying cities, and get some info there, man, because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
honestly, you don't want to miss this one. Like, this
Right.
is going to answer Tartaria for us. This is
Yeah.
going to answer the
We're
questions
running
that we've
through it
had.
again. So, and also if you've noticed, that your city's empty, get some footage. Send it in to us, and we
Oh,
can compile, because we want to have a look at what, the footage of cities from, around 2000 and put them next to footage from today, and we'll be able to see, like, if
yeah.
there's different if the population is dropping. But this is it, right? We've seen it in the past, we've studied it, empty cities, what the hell's going on? Where did all the people go? And it looks like we're going through it again. Did we create it? I don't know, but it seems like it's happening. But we can remember that the world used to be different. So a lot of people don't seem to be. So looks like we're here to witness the
Oh,
end. The
it's
end.
it's phenomenal. We're witnessing the Mandela effect of Tartaria, what Tartaria potentially went through, where all the bodies they went with them because they got deleted from
Well,
all
that was a
time and
big one, right? The
space, including
bodies. Where are all the
now.
bodies? Did they just
Listen,
disappear?
I want to show you something. So one of the initiatives that Campbell and I are bringing to our little community is we are actually starting proper, like physical, like go to your mailbox and go and pick it up, physical newsletter. We don't want an online one. We don't want one that's like covered on like fucking socials. We want it to be real. So this is a bi-monthly newsletter that Campbell and I are going to try to generate. And we have set up this box here on the homepage of our website where you can basically submit anything you want. And it's set up now, much pain suffering from my end. But set up now that you can choose the section that you want to submit. If you have artwork or maps or music, hello, we are still waiting for someone to produce our theme song for Tartaria Australia and produce our intro and outro. Someone in the community, surely there's someone out there who's sung an amazing song that would make this show just pop. We want it. We want to work with you. Um, Photographs, videos, articles, information, anything you can imagine, you can now submit. And this gets uploaded directly into our G drive, into the folder for the month, which then can either just be general stuff you want to show Campbell and I personally, as in if you have a Mandela effect you'd like to share, or you have a story of a personal person that's actually disappeared suddenly, like you could enter it here and it would come to Campbell and I. And for anyone who wants to contribute anything to an actual physical newsletter, this is where you do it. It's on the home page of the website, right under me smoking a spliff, right there. And you are the guys that are going to write this newsletter because we realize that not everyone wants to do a podcast. But shit, man, there's like hundreds of thousands of you that have so much good shit to say,
Yeah,
so many amazing things to
yeah,
contribute.
for sure. If you're a researcher and you're more into writing, we are after articles. But please finish them. We're not going to have the time to go through and edit them or anything. So yeah, but yeah, if you want to send some articles, you want to get them in front of people, just go to tartariaaustralia.com and submit it and whatever else, and we'll go through and we'll create a newsletter and send it out, and you can get it in your
Yep,
letterbox and you can
yep,
hold it in your hands and put it on your
yeah.
coffee table.
And have a cup of tea and smoke a spliff and see what's in that newsletter because literally we're never going to know. It's going to be what is ever contributed. And this is a call out for anyone within this community. If you have things that you want to promote, your own fucking medicines, tinctures, your own products, your creativity, we want to put that in. Like that'll all be going in for free. This is in service to our community and creating something very fucking cool for us to receive in the mailbox. And this came about because this is what Campbell and I would personally love to receive in our mailboxes.
Mm,
And this is going to be a trial one, pilot project one. As soon as we have enough content, we're going to produce the newsletter. We're going to take the cost on that, and that newsletter, the first edition, will be free. So you guys can check it out, and we can show you what we're talking about, and you can receive it and experience it. But then it'll be a monthly sub to the newsletter.
yeah. Cool, and that's what we need. And also, if you are a musician or part of a band, we're looking for musicians for the Jolly Swag tour in September. Drop us
Oh,
an email
so much going on.
so much going on. 5th, 7th
Ooh.
September, Jolly Swag, and also in June. You'll find all these links below. If you want to come and help us build the Jolly Swag tour, we've still got work down there. Come and meet like-minded people, hang out, have fun, build something, create memories, right? Slow time down.
Well,
It's all there.
I guess after this podcast, one could say that this sort of um spontaneous ideas that we're having and spontaneous like desires to connect us all in a physical space and time and reality must be very intuitively in alignment with our community's needs at this time as we are playing witness to the Mandela effect of the population. Like
Mm.
it's going to be having a physical newsletter appear in your mailbox. It's going to be it's like a energetic like bond. It's like we've got
Real.
what's yeah, it's like a way, it's a what's the word, like there's a glue between us, there's a pathway, there's a bond, there's a connection, there's a timeline. It's going to be a timeline between our community. So this is like when we do the volunteer weekends, when we do the festivals, when we do the newsletter, when we offer these sorts of things, when we like invite you to certain things and have containers, they're all like timelines that we're weaving around us in some sort of intuitive magical way that makes sense of what else is going on in time and reality that we haven't quite understood yet. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Because I didn't say that very
Yeah,
well.
man, come and hang out with your tribe, have amazing conversations, and connect up with what you want, right? We've got to build, our own network, right? That's not the internet. We've got to get back to, being able to, we'll send out newsletters, let you know what's going on, real things that you can touch that are tactile, right? Because most of our experiences have been absorbed into the screen that you're currently looking at. And so what that means is reality is becoming virtual, right? So we're getting back to the unvirtual reality, like realistic stuff that you can even pick it up, you can show your friends, it can't be edited, it can't be taken down by YouTube. Once you got that letter in your hand,
Yeah,
it's there, right? We
it's
don't have to worry about, censorship and all this kind of stuff, right? We're getting off their platforms, out of the system and back into creating what we want,
and
right?
I
Our
guess
little
I
communities.
I guess, Cam, what else is happening there is we're kind of like weaving back the old world.
Yeah.
So it was the 80s that used to get newsletters. It was the 60s where you'd get newsletters, like where you'd like sub to something like that. And I guess we're taking it back that way. That's where we want to head. We want to get out of this artificial world back to that space. And I think there's something significant in that. There's something important. I don't know the right words yet or really understand the gravity of it, but it's something. I just know it. So
Mm.
once again, if you have anything you would like to contribute to an actual newsletter, any research, evidence, theories, maps, photographs, just ideas, theories, we would love to hear theories. We want to hear your theories. Write them out. Bother to write them out and give us your theory. You don't have to evidence it. Just give us your theory. If you've got evidence, excellent. But just give it. If you have solutions that you know would be amazing for this community, put them in there. And they don't have to be on the topic of history because you remember at the volunteer weekend, Dusty was telling me this amazing solution to putting like this tiny amount of bacteria into sort of septic tanks and it reinvigorates the septic tank once you've emptied it. Anyway, it was an amazing product. And I was like, fuck, I could have used that 10 times over already. That sort of stuff is really powerful for our community who are all returning to nature, getting off the grid, living this lifestyle. All of that stuff could go in there. People want to understand sovereign law. They want to understand the legal total invite to Tacit to be involved. People want to like get to understand how you do really utilize electroculture. Does it work? People send us your photos of your vegetables that are big. Show us the evidence of what you've generated with these sorts of
Mm.
new ideas and technologies. Like that's what we want it to be full of. And every single edition, we're never going to know what's in there, but it's going to be brilliant because it's all based on your brilliance. If
Mm.
you've got the fucking bother and energy to frigging get off your ass, finish the article and send it in. That's all it takes. To say yes and do it. send it
Mm.
in.
Yep, yep. And if you've got any ideas, businesses or whatever, well, write an article on what you're doing and your results and everything. And then at the bottom, leave your website or your address or whatever
Yep,
and get some customers, all that
that's
kind of
right.
stuff. But obviously we're not going to put just ads in because that's going back to the system, right? But if you've got good products and you base more on information, then, please, we would love to help support you and your business. This
Yes,
is what we want to
absolutely.
do.
Absolutely, Campbell. And
Mm.
if you've got an event coming up or you've got a group on Telegram or WhatsApp or you've got anything like that going on that would be that is already populated by this community, then you are absolutely welcome to let us know about it and to like actually get involved with putting some stuff into the consciousness of a broader community around you in a physical way.
Mm.
So by the time this podcast is up, there's going to be a nice big fat button here if you want to sub to the newsletter. If you want to receive the first edition of this newsletter, you're going to put your name right here, and we're going to send it to you when it's completed, and then
Indeed.
convince you that it's absolutely worth subbing to it from that moment forward. I'm very
It
excited,
is.
Campbell, because I don't know what it's even going
Yeah.
to look like.
No, no, we're not sure what it's going to evolve into. I think in lots of good ideas, maybe some Mad Magazine type
Oh, I
pictures
love
you can
that.
fold in and fold out.
Oh, yes.
Cartoons, bit of fun, a classified section where, you can put all your different groups and people can
Yeah,
join up and live events and stories. And I mean, it'll be cool, right? It'll be an
yeah.
experience and
It'll
it'll
be
be
our own street
real.
press.
Yeah,
Our own
man.
street press, man. Do you remember how
Yeah.
populated the world used to be? That there used to be
Yeah, man.
like five
Express
street.
magazine and all
Oh
that
my
kind of
God.
stuff and high times and yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean in Brisbane there were like five street presses and they were full of, band information and gig guides and same in Melbourne there was street press and they were free and they were full. And now they don't exist. None of them exist
They've
anymore.
all gone online or they don't exist.
Or
Yeah.
they just don't exist because the need's not there and the
Mm,
businesses aren't there. So, but I love a good street press and I've been an editor of a few street presses and it's something that I really like a lot of. And
mm.
so I'm very keen to lay out an excellent, and when
Man,
we say a newsletter, who knows what it'll actually look like, but a very excellent thing
it'll
to,
be
but yeah. So
paper
it's our
with
street
words and
press.
pictures. Yes,
That's the better
yes.
word for it. We want to create not a
Street,
newsletter, but a street press
street press. We're
specific
going
to
back to the
our
old
audience.
world. Yeah. Bring it
Yep.
back, right? Because we've all sort of jumped on this bandwagon. Oh, it'd be so much easier online. But I think that we're now realizing that it's not. Kind of like takes the whole life out of everything and the interacting and
Oh, yeah.
all that kind of stuff, right? Even the
Yeah.
mailman. Who sees the mailman anymore? People used to
Yeah.
run out to the
This is
gate. Oh my God, it's the
exactly.
mail.
That's right.
Right.
Now I don't ever see a mailman anymore. So, and this, of course, this idea works for the whole world. It doesn't have to be Australian specific. Anyone from anywhere in our whole community across the whole world can contribute anything that's relevant to them. Any gigs or groups that are relevant to their area, all included. Like, so it's worldwide. A street press for this community worldwide. We're super excited about it. And I hope that you guys like get excited fucking too and start getting shit in there, sending us this stuff. Send it, send it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so that's a lot of new things this
That's a lot
week,
of new
Campbell. We've
things. Yeah,
like said a
man.
lot
Days
of
would have
new
been,
things.
oh gosh, we've done at least a couple of hours. So there you go, guys. What do you think? What's happening? Check out the videos, especially with China, people disappearing. Let us know what you think. But it's very interesting that we were literally studying this a couple of years ago. Where the hell are all the people in the past? And now we're like, where are all the people in the present? Have we
Fucking
gone through this again, right?
It's so good. It's so good. I love that we're lingering on that thought. No, I love that everyone who hears this is going to linger on that thought and be holy fucking shit. Which I expect now that it's out there as a thought. We're going to get bombarded by content validating
We'll
this
start seeing more
concept.
videos pop up. Yeah. And definitely get us footage of your city if you're out there and it looks like it's not as populous as it was, and then we can put together some actual evidence, right, of city
Yep.
20 years ago and now, and we can really show what's going on out there.
Yep. Very cool, man. Very cool. That's a lot of information,
A lot of
everyone.
information, yes. Thanks for
I hope,
spending time with us. All the links to all that stuff below. Go check it all
yep.
out.
All right. Have the best morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you're tuning in on the world. We love this. And thanks for joining us. And hope that you get inspired to contribute some energy to some of the other offerings that we have to link us all together. Because somewhere in there is something excellent that we don't know yet what it is, but it will be there. And I'm excited to see it. So let's create together. Let's
Yeah,
see what a
man.
whole community does to create a street press.
Yeah,
What the
man.
fuck does that look
Fuck with the
like?
new world order. Let's bring back the old world order.
Yep, fantastic. All right, Cam. All
Guys.
right, well, you have a great week, man, and we will
Well,
speak to you
talk to you
guys
soon. Yeah,
next
stay
week.
awesome, guys. See ya.